Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Beat Break Morning Show. Follow us at Beat Break Radio on all your social media at Beat Break Radio, Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. You got the architect here, Sean Garvey, live and direct in the Reach One Network Studios in the ATL. Also got my compadre, DJ Roland, with me. DJ Roland, what's good, homie?
What's good, man? Morning.
Good morning to you, man. How was your week? How was your weekend?
Man, it's always good. It's always be blessed to do the things that I like to do, is make the music and make it happen.
And making money.
Yeah.
That part.
Always. Yeah.
You know, we had the point in our careers, DJ Roland, that we can't do everything for free nowadays. Trust me, I know.
Please. I mean, now, look, we when the pandemic ends, I still want to do what I've been doing, you know, because I don't want people's like, well, I don't have, because I'm like, all right, next. I'm sorry. You know, 2020 was one thing. We're in 2021 and going. So it's time to move on.
Time to move on. Yeah. Got to still do what you love doing. Yeah. Even in the midst of a pandemic, you still got to find creative ways to stay consistent. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
All right. DJ Roland, Sean Garvey, and also can't forget our homegirl, Star Kills or Star Kills. This is, you know what? I've been saying your last name all along. You on mute, by the way, sister. You on mute. Maybe you was on mute for
crash.
Maybe you was on mute for a reason, because you were probably about to cuss me out.
I was. I promise, because you've been saying my name wrong, but I love how you say it so much. I never corrected you.
Because of how it's spelled. Wrong. So it's Keels, but it's really Kills. Star Kills.
I've been thinking it was Kales myself.
Yeah, people keep saying Kills, and I'm like, kill is Keels, like keys, but with an L. Keels.
Kills. So like hills rhyme with hills, but kills.
No, kills.
Kill. Or like a pill. But kill.
That's how it spells. Peel, P-E-L-L, kill, K-E-E-L.
Now, you know what, Bump that. I'm going to continue to call you Star Kills. That's your new radio name, Star Kills.
Yeah, Star Kills, yeah.
I like it, so go ahead with it.
It rolls. It rolls.
Go ahead with it.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, welcome to the Beat Break Morning Show. If you a first-time listener to the Beat Break Morning Show, welcome. This is the show where we talk about any and everything, and add a little bit of comedy to it. Of course, last week we did a show about verses gone wow. We touched on that a lot, DJ Roland the Star. From my understanding, coming up next to verses is Big Daddy Kane versus KRS-One.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That's gonna be lit.
But KRS-One wanted to do Nas.
What you say?
I was saying KRS-One wanted to versus Nas. He wanted to do Nas, but Nas didn't want to respond.
What? I don't think that would be a good match.
You want to bet KRS-One? Nas?
I mean, both of them, legendary, very talented, but the vibe, I can see Nas and Jay-Z.
Oh man, you looking for war. You looking for war.
Bring it on.
Hey, I'm trying to get a KRS-One beat real quick. Hold on. Let me see if I can put one up. There we go. There we go. Warm it up. I don't think it's going to be a good match. I don't think Big Daddy Kane up against KRS-One. I was waiting for Big Daddy Kane versus Rakim.
Yes.
Okay, Sean,
that would have worked.
On the same page.
That would have worked.
Oh, okay. You agree too. Okay.
I know some people disagree.
No, I was thinking that anyway. That would have been better. In my opinion, that would have been better.
I think that would have been a great, yeah. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that.
Yeah. And then KRS-One can go up against Chuck D from Public Enemy.
That would have been nice too. No, I don't
know about that.
Because of their style and whatnot.
Okay, so. I can see style wise, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I said Nas and him couldn't, because the style,
I'm looking at their art, their creativity of KRS-One and Nas. That would have been great on that. And KRS-One with Chuck D, because of their vibe and what they have done and what they continue to do. Yeah, I can still see that too.
So. Okay.
All right. All right. You know, well, hey, I didn't create verses, so hey, you know, it is what it is. I'm just saying this, but I mean, we did, for the sake of argument, we did have somebody on the Beat Break Morning Show weeks ago that actually did create verses before verses is what it is. Mm-hmm. And Miss Dia know what I'm talking about because we have her on the line. Miss Dia.
What's up with it?
Good to see ya.
You too, brother. Always.
Yeah. You know, we talked a little bit about verses, and we also talked about the originator of that. It wasn't Timbaland. It wasn't Swiss Beats. It was our very own D-Cast from Casual Conversations.
Let me say this, though.
Okay.
Now, I'm a Detroit girl, born and raised. And ever since I was a little girl, and it still happens to this day, one of our radio stations every Friday or Saturday, they do a versus, and they've been doing that for years. But as far as here in Atlanta and in the hip hop scene, D-Cast definitely, was one of the first that I ever saw do it.
Yeah, we got to give credit when credit is due now.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, but it wasn't called versus. It was called the Dream Battle.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we always come with the first. But glad to have you back on, Miss Dia, and we're going to bring you on in just a few moments. And of course, it is somewhat, we talked about this a little bit off the air, it is somewhat of a ladies' night with just two guys on here. I feel like we are doing a reboot of Living Single, where I'm like Kyle and DJ
That's a
Roland
good one.
And DJ Roland is
That's
Overton.
A good
one. DJ Roland is Overton,
and I'm Kyle.
You Kyle?
Maybe because I'm how I'm dressed, by the way.
Yeah, how I'm dressed. But guess what? I'm still fit. I'm cool with being Overton.
Right.
I am not the handyman, but I'll definitely have the style.
Well, what do you want to be, Miss Dia? What do you want to be? Queen Latifah? What? Khadijah?
I can't just say. Yeah, I think I'm kind of Khadijah. Well, let me see. Any other ladies in here? I'm gonna say Khadijah if it's all right with y'all, ladies.
All right, let's go. Let's see. Star.
He gonna be my boyfriend. Oh no, that was Regine. I can't remember.
That was Regine.
Oh yeah,
that was Regine. You're right. Okay, no, I'm Regine. So no.
You kind of do look like Regine.
Okay. Yeah, I do get a little Regine from you though. Just a look, little.
Okay, don't make me go change my outfit and put on something cute. And I will change my hair. I will come back with a big old fro.
Yes, I love it.
So I'm getting Maxine's vibes from Star.
So that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, people used to say I look like Maxine Shaw. They used to always say that, and then I went to college for pre-law, so they were just like, "Oh, you're gonna be a lawyer like Maxine Shaw," So it was just kind of like this thing. And when I looked her up, I was like, "Oh my God, she could be a cousin. She could be a sibling, maybe older sister." Because of our features, I saw why they would say, and she's a beautiful woman. Even in
absolutely. Oh my goodness. Like even nowadays, she's doing so much work. She's in television shows and film. She looked just as good as she was in the 90s when she was on Living Single.
Yeah, she looking good. She out here, she is a whole old fine snack. Maybe a whole old fine eagle, really.
I hear that.
Just saying, people laughing at me, but look, I want to be old fine. I be telling my cousin, because we have this contest, right? Of who's going to be best as they get older. And obviously it's going to be me. But I always say I want to take care of myself so much that when I get older, I still look like I'm ageless,
Right. That part. That part. Yeah. Yeah. Got to keep yourself up. You know, that's why people say that I still look like I'm in high school. You know, I got the great beard and everything, but people still say I look like I'm still in high school. I just be like, okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
That skin is flawless.
Hey, man. Yeah, does that mean I get that Happy Meal for free?
No.
Right.
I still got to show my ID. Shoot. Really? Maya Kai in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
Namaste, everybody. How are you?
Peace. Maya Kai back. Who do you want to be from Living Single? I can tell you I get, because there's Maxine, there's Khadijah, there's Regine.
Probably very Sinclair-like. I admit that.
I get that. Yes, that's what I was thinking.
I probably am. I'll own that. Yes.
Oh, so you my boo now, right?
I'm sorry. That's the way it shakes out. I'm sorry. Oh boy.
Well, it is fair to say, Sinclair, aka Maya Kai, you are next to DJ Roland by way of Zoom.
Right.
So that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So last but not least, Khadijah, aka Sharafat Muhammad.
I guess I'd be mother when that what Khadijah called herself.
Yeah. You do kind of got that. You do kind of got that Khadijah vibe, though.
Yeah.
Sharafat.
Okay, I mean, I'll take it.
You take it.
I take it.
Of course, you got no choice but to take it because
I mean everybody else take it.
Right.
Miss Dia got Regine, Star got Maxine, Maya got Sinclair. So yeah,
I got to be Khadijah. Well, on the show, Khadijah had all the fine dudes. So
she had
all the fine dudes.
The
dudes.
You right, and I always wondered because even in my young age, I was like, she don't seem like she like men. She gets
difference between Khadijah and Sharafat. I do love men. So. Capital L.
Khadijah gave me a lot of strong testosterone in that show, so I just used to wonder, like, dang, how she keep getting all the fine men?
Yeah, I mean, she did though, and she was cool. She had dudes. She owned her own little newspapers. I'll take her.
And she was kissing on the show too. She was kissing these men on that show.
Yeah, it wasn't like she got him. She was kissing. Yep, that's true. That is so true.
Yeah. So of course, so Overton had Sinclair. Maxine had Kyle Barker. Because we did kind of get into it offline a few times, Star, to be fair. So it was kind of like we did have a Kyle Barker, Maxine Sharp.
That's what we're doing too. Okay.
You see what I mean?
That's what Maxine done.
Boom. Becomes Maxine. There you go.
Yeah. And Regine ended up with the guy, he was Jamaican, right? Was he Jamaican or Haitian?
Oh, he was a Haitian.
That's what
I don't know. I can't remember.
He sounded Jamaican to me.
No disrespect to my Haitian brothers. I love y'all.
Look.
Hey, who want to switch? Can I?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You committed.
Yeah, you committed. You got to stay the course.
Wait, why my records are right next to me, and I'm looking for my Heavy D record. Like, where's my album so I can put my Heavy boyfriend right next to me?
Oh boy.
Hey. We just gonna say she stayed with Heavy, right?
Yeah. It's big boy cuffing season, you know. It started September the 21st. I keep up with it because I want to find me somebody nice and cuddly for the winter.
I remember that.
It is big boy cuffing season. So, you know.
Okay. It's still a little bit warm outside, so you got plenty of time. It's still, a little bit humid outside.
Yeah, but you got to get them before everybody else get them. So as soon as it hits fall, the thirst trap has started.
You sounded like a QVC right now. You sound like Home Shopping Network for a dude.
I'm just saying, that's what we're doing. We got to shop. Y'all shop and pick us. Why can't I shop and pick me one?
Okay.
Whoa, right,
Good
DJ
point.
Roland, hold me back,
Equal
hold me back.
opportunity.
Man,
There you go. There you go.
this
We
is
were just
not
talking about
Build-A-Bear
that offline.
season, okay? I mean, man.
Build-A-Bear season. I might like that even better.
Yes, I love it. I'm stealing it.
Build-A-Bear season?
Yeah.
Build a bear, baby.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, man. Y'all come up with all this new stuff every single week. I just now found out what on cap means. Is it on cap? Oh, no cap.
No cap.
No cap. I just found out what that actually means since last week.
Wow. You're late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't mind being late.
What's it mean? Because I don't know.
I'm about to say, well, if you late, I'm not even like in the vicinity. So is that like a regional thing?
Oh, you don't know either?
No. What does that mean?
No cap.
So it's different ways that it can mean, right? So some people be like, okay, you talking, you having a conversation. Okay, I'm gonna make it easy and simple. You remember when what's that man named Baby came out with Stunting Like My Dad, like stunting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just kind of similar to capping. So they'll go to the extreme with it. Like, man, I pulled up at the blah, 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 blah. And in order to validate what they did, like, man, I pulled up in a Hummer on them. I had 50 Bs in the car. We hopped out, got in the VIP, no cap.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm glad that I showed up late to the party on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, in most conversations I have, my clients don't drop no cap. So that's not what we're talking about, unfortunately.
No, it's more of a millennial generation.
I think it's a millennial thing too, FYI. I was like,
thank you.
I'm just going to own that. That's a millennial thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we, the X generation? What is that generation we in?
Yeah, millennials, X generation, Y.
I'll go as far as to say I can't even remember, so you can just place me in one of them. That's how old I am. Whatever you say it is, it's not millennial. It's whatever was before that. So it's not boomer. It's not boomer, but it's not millennial. How about that?
Right.
How about that?
All right, y'all. Big Break Morning Show, where we learn new stuff every single day, every week. All right. So thank you for tuning in to the Big Break Morning Show. And make sure you download that Podcast FM app to your mobile device to hear us live. We are syndicated on multiple platforms. All you got to do is just search Beat Break 87 FM or Reach One Network or 101 The Vibe FM in Louisville, Kentucky. All right. So DJ Roland, man, we about to get into some serious stuff this morning, but we're going to still keep it fresh and funky for our listeners out there. Let me put on this beat real quick. I think I want to play some African drum beat. I'm gonna switch it up. This is something we never done on the Beat Break Morning Show. We doing it for a special occasion, DJ Roland.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got to welcome back our intern turned news reporter, Sheriff Fat Muhammad. She started with us.
Yeah.
Right here on the Beat Break Morning Show.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing news for us. And, she also helped me conduct an interview that we did back in 2018, I believe, Sheriff Fat. And so now she has a new movie that she has not only starred in, but she also directed.
Whoa.
The new movie, doing major things. It's called Stuck in Between. Stuck in Between, got a nice ring to it. And here to talk more about it is Sheriff Fat Muhammad. She's going to let us know what the movie is all about. So Sheriff Fat Muhammad, welcome back to the Beat Break Morning Show. We're so happy to have you back with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back. I really appreciate this.
And you still have the same blazer that you are wearing right now when you was doing the news for us back in the day.
No, this is a new blazer. I'm moving on up. Same color, okay. Different style, and different, company.
Okay. Don't call you out like that.
He was trying to, but unfortunately, it kind of fell flat. A new company, moving up. Remember to get a new brand.
New brand,
baby. New brand.
Yeah. Oh, you fancy, huh?
Trying to be.
All right, so the movie's called Stuck in Between, and I got a chance to read the premise of the movie, but I think it would be better coming from you because you directed this movie. Is this your first time directorial debut?
Yes, I wrote it, I directed it, and I starred in it. Yes.
Nice. Hand clap for that. Hand clap. Which one? Let me ask you before we get into the premise of the film. Okay. Which one was more challenging for you? Was it being in the film, writing it, directing it? Which one was more challenging?
I'm going to have to say starring and directing in it, because I still had to show up as an actress, but I know you said choose one, but it's kind of hard. It was starring in it and directing it was both equally challenging, because I still had to direct my other cast. I still had to, direct the whole project.
Wow. So I'm imagining that it was pretty much like 7 days a week, something like that. 7 days a week, 12 hours. Because on a TV set or even on a film set, you have to be on set for 12 hours.
Yes, sometimes, yeah.
Even at times longer than that.
Yeah.
So what was it like that on set?
No. I shot on the weekends, but I shot for 3 months. So every weekend for 3 months, I shot. So Saturday and Sunday for 3 months.
Right. Because you want to be clear out your schedule to do other things, to do other projects, and not have this production interfere with other projects that you got going on.
Yes, that and my cast, to make sure they were also accommodated as well.
Nice. Okay. So let's talk about it. The premise of Stuck in Between. What is this film all about?
Well, often children of immigrants. I'm a child of West African immigrants. We sometimes have to battle with being, kind of stuck in between our culture and then also accepting the fact that we were born here in America or, if you're UK or whatever, and trying to figure out our identity. So that's where the film came from. It's loosely based off of some real life situations with me and some of my other friends. And I kind of got tired of seeing this same narrative when it came to children of immigrants about this whole, we don't know our culture, we don't know where we come from. We're like, who, what, Africa, what's that? Type of thing. I got tired of seeing that narrative because I knew that wasn't the only narrative, because I wasn't raised like that. And I know a lot of my friends who comes from immigrants, they weren't raised like that. They understand the culture. They know the language sometimes. They know how to cook the food. They love to dress in the native. But oftentimes, like I said earlier, we kind of have to struggle with that kind of identity. So we're usually like kind of stuck in between, specifically those of us who are Black, in the sense where we recognize our African culture, but we're still Black in the United States of America. And that doesn't stop us from, experiencing the Black experience. It may be a little different in the sense that we come from a different cultural background, but we still have a Black experience.
Yeah, now, I heard you mention, and we'll take some questions from our host as well, our co-host. You mentioned something that was very important, being stuck in between, being born in America and realizing and getting to that understanding of who you really are and how it all traces back to Africa. And I know it could be troubling at times. It can be very challenging at times, especially when you have someone from a different culture come up to you and ask you, where are you from? And you tell them, well, I'm from Bankhead. Like, no, like, where are you? Where are you originally from? Like, what is your culture? What is your original homeland? And you're just like, I don't know. I don't know. And then later on, you find out what your lineage is. So what did it take for you? Because you did say it's based off of real life experiences.
Yes.
What did it take for you to overcome those struggles and those challenges to finally embrace who you really are?
It took acceptance. Like I said, my parents are from West Africa. I'm proud to say that, my parents are Yoruba. So I can hide who I was anyway, because my name is Sherifat A. Muhammad. You already know. They're like, oh, that's a different name. I already had to be explaining, well, okay, this is what it means, this and that. I often had times reconciling the fact that I was, born in America, in the sense where you'll have other, Africans who will come and meet you, and then they'll be like, well, you're not really African. You were born here. You're not really African. You were born here. And it's like, well, and I find myself kind of like trying to prove that I'm like, I am African. But then it got to a sense where, yeah, I am African, but I was born here and I'm not going to deny that. So it was just the self-acceptance.
Self-acceptance. Okay. That's great. DJ Roland?
Yeah, I was thinking what you were saying and whatnot. And the thing about it is us as I'm talking about like a person like myself and even Sean Garvey, even our Star Kells, that Africans don't recognize us as African American. You know, we just happen to be American and whatnot. And then society labeled us as African Americans and then Black and back and forth, even on forums, it's either as African American / Black. And I'm like, okay, all right. So, but real quick question: as you were growing up, what was a challenge identifying yourself with our American society? I'm not trying to put your age out there or anything, but growing up, what challenges have you really been dealing with because of trying to accept your identity, knowing that you are African, but they keep pushing you saying you African American or you just American?
Well, like you said, I feel like sometimes when we think about reconnecting and building a bridge, we always say it from the standpoint of like the African American building a bridge back to Africa. And we don't actually think about the African also trying to build a bridge to African Americans in America, because for whatever reason, they also have a lost sense of history as well. Like if you talk to a lot of Africans, they always make it seem like, oh yeah, them over there. And I'm like, well, did they just walk out from the sky? Did they get dropped off by a spacecraft? I mean, they came here from a continent, I don't know, similar to the continent that you grew up on. So, you know, for me, trying to reconcile that, like I said, it was kind of on both sides. Like I said, I got made fun of, the African booty scratcher. I still kind of tense up every time I hear that. I'm ready to fight somebody. And then I got well, you're not really African. So I was always kind of like, to your point, I was always trying to fight both sides, fight both battles, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Stuck in Between is the new movie. Sharafat Muhammad on the Beat Break Morning Show. We're discussing her first directorial debut. Very interesting. I found out about my ancestral heritage not too long ago, and I was lucky enough to share that on social media. I'm 42% Nigerian, by the way. And I'm also mixed with Kenyan. I'm also mixed with West African. I'm mixed with so many different cultures, so many different forms of who I am as a person. And so for you, Sharafat, and we'll get right back into the movie in just a few moments. For you, like, what is your advice to people that don't know their heritage, don't know their real identity? Like, how can they go about doing that? I mean, can they, when they see the movie, maybe the movie will motivate them even more, but what is your advice to the people out there that are struggling to find out who they are as an individual and their identity?
Well, my advice is to do what you did. Go out and search for it. I mean, when you're looking for something, they say you'll find it. Most times you do, sometimes you don't, but at least try to go find it. I don't know. It's kind of difficult walking through this world not knowing exactly who or where you come from. And I know that especially for African Americans, it's hard because your culture was stripped from you. There's no way you can just go to a book and be like, that's me, type of thing. But we do need to start the process of reconciling and getting back together. For instance, I know Ghana has they had a year of return, but they have a festival every year. It's called the Pana Festival. And that they're trying to invite brothers and sisters back home to start that reconciling process. So I would say my advice to you would be, I hope my firm motivates you first and foremost, and then take the steps that you took to go find out where your lineage comes from. And then do some research and see what country in Africa you would like to go visit and learn more about.
Yeah, I would say to people when I have conversations with them, my top 3 places to go to in Africa is Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Kenya. Those are my top 3. Especially Ethiopia. We because me and you, we didn't necessarily work together in the same time period, Sharafat, but at the station where you used to work at, there were plenty of Ethiopians that would come into the studio and do their own radio show. They had their own radio block. And seeing that a few years ago, it was like, you know what, these group of people, they not only put out an amazing show about how it is in their world and politics and things of that sort, but it's just so great to see a group of collective people come together and working together and still embrace their culture and not forgetting where they came from. So to the movie Stuck in Between, I think it already sends a powerful message to people, whether they already know their identity or if they are in search of trying to find out who or what they really are as far as identity is concerned. And so I want to go over to our other co-hosts joining with us right here on the Beat Break Morning Show. Of course, we got Star Kels, Miss Dia, and Maya Kai. So if you all have any questions for Sharafat Muhammad, please, the floor is yours.
Did you ever find, and I think this is interesting, that there's this always conversation, Africans. Africa's a continent with actually more than, what is it, like 50 something countries with more than 100 languages. So I kind of find it like too streamlining when people say Africa. Because I'm like, you're not necessarily like, you're of the African continent.
Yes, but where?
You come from a specific country that has customs and languages, and it's not universal. And I think that right there, people need to understand that when you can learn your history just by doing Ancestry.com. When I did mine, along with my big pot of whatever, my African nation was the Ivory Coast.
Yes.
That was the predominant thing that came from that. So if you want to know, you can always take the test and have an idea where you come from. And then I think it's really unique to learn the customs because they're not uniform. So that within itself, I think it's very dangerous to keep saying just Africa, because there's all these unique cultural experiences that go from country to country and language, and they all have their own history.
That's so true.
Some of it's tumultuous, some of it's not. You should know where more kings came from than just Egypt or Ethiopia.
So true.
People don't know the rest of African history because they only focus on, and it's funny because most people tend to take Egypt out of Africa, and North Africa, or we say North Africa, we like people's countries out. And I think it's interesting that we should stop speaking of it just in, the kind of continent terms and acknowledge what it is as its countries, because it's really unique within itself. And I think that richness people should experience altogether.
Yes, I totally agree. Like even for the country that's called Nigeria, there's like 300, 500 different languages.
Yeah.
And like I would get growing up, so speak Nigerian. And I'd be like, I don't know if I can do that. And that's actually, the film discusses that too. It touches on that just a little bit. It's like, I can't do that. I can't speak Nigerian. There's no Nigerian language. Now I can give you some Yoruba because that's the nationality that my parents are from, but I can't, they don't have no, hey, in Nigeria type of thing, So you're absolutely correct. And I agree 100%. Understanding that they're different cultures, just like here in America. If, for instance, I did this play, and that's what kind of triggered me to write this film or get back into writing the film. The director had a quote unquote Nigerian character. And I'm like, okay, she's Nigerian. What nationality? Is she Igbo? Is she Yoruba? Is she from Edo? I mean, that's just like if I say, okay, be American. You'd be like, okay, do you want me to be from Chicago? Do you want me from New York? Do you want me from LA, Houston, Atlanta, Miami? Where you want me to be from? So I think what you're saying is very, very important. Yes.
Do you also kind of touch on the fact that unfortunately National Geographic had everybody believing that Africa, this continent a country, first of all, the first misinformation was right there, that there was nothing urban or developed, that it was all like just in the bush backwards and nothing.
Running with the rhinos and stuff.
Yes. You kind of dispel that myth of there are sprawling metropolises all throughout Africa, despite what people think.
Well, I don't touch on it in this film, but I have another project out, a project I'm working on that's definitely going to kind of touch on that a little bit. This film is more or less about cultural identity and trying to figure out who you are. But yes, I have another project that's going to kind of touch on that.
Okay.
Okay. We also got Miss Dia and Star.
I just want to say congratulations on the film. Yes, congratulations. And thank you for doing this, because the topics that you mentioned are topics that like we really need to be discussing.
Thank you.
I didn't know how bad the whole diaspora wars and stuff, how bad it was until honestly, well, no, let me take that back. I experienced firsthand some things, but then when I got on TikTok and I was seeing how like, it was like all of this teasing back and forth and this whole, stripping people from their African, as brother was saying, like, okay, we're not African enough, or we're not African at all, or identify as African. And I'm happy to see that you're touching on those things, and like I can't wait to see it. I would love to, So when and how will people be able to see it?
Well, it's going to be out in the beginning of 2022 because I'm going to do like some film festival circuits first, and after I do that, then I'll put it out. I do have a website, so you can keep up to date with all of the going ons with the film. It's www.stuckinbetweenfilm.com.
Okay.
So it has like all the cast information. It has all of the what's going on, the events. It has the trailer. It has some behind the scene footage. It has contact info. It has all of that. So it's definitely going to be out the first quarter of 2022.
Great.
You know what I was just thinking? Would it be dope if in 2022, if Stuck in Between and Black Panther 2 came out in the same year? Imagine how dope that would be, and possibly even maybe 3-4 more films to come out the same year to talk and to highlight the struggle, the beautiful, everything in between of Africa. I mean, imagine how dope that would be. And to segue into my next question before we go any further, are they going to be, because I looked at the movie poster prior to you coming on, Sheriff Fat, and it looks like it's going to be a bit humorous at times. Yes. Will there be any type of Wakanda jokes in the film?
No.
All right.
Kind of jokes. Not in
None. I don't know whether to give that a hand clap.
No, my brother. No, my brother. No, but it will be some humor. I always find that it's easier to tell the truth with humor. So.
Absolutely. So once again, the movie is going to be released.
Yes.
Slated to be released in 2022.
Yes.
And the website is stuckinbetweenfilm.com.
Yes.
All right. And my final question is, what do you want people to take away from the film?
I want people to take away from the film the ability to stand in your truth. It's all, sometimes you feel like, oh yeah, as you get older, it's easy. But no, the longer you hide, the harder it is for you to kind of step into your truth, to the light. So I want people to be able to stand in their truth, whatever your truth may be.
Nice. All right. Well, that's a hand clap for that. Stuck in Between, coming soon. And is it going to be by way of streaming or by way of theater?
Streaming.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And in hopes, or in the efforts, I should say, for it to go to theatrical release.
Hopefully, but with COVID and all that. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Have a private premiere or?
Yes, I am having a private premiere.
Invite us.
I did send the invite to Sean, so I don't know if you still have it, but I could definitely send it out again.
Yes, please send it out again. We would love to be in the place.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the time, and I'm very appreciative to be able to talk about my film.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Sheriff, we got to definitely have you back on the morning show. I do want to talk more about ancestry and identity and things of that nature. Okay. So we will connect, of course, or reconnect to have you back on to talk about some things. All right. And we also have the chat room, ladies and gentlemen, for contact information and what have you. So feel free to chat with Sheriff Fat Mohammed in the chat room via Zoom on the Beat Break Morning Show for contact information and what have you there. Sean Garvey, DJ Rollum, and Star Kels. Yes, I'm going to continue. We're going to continue to call Star Kels Star Kels.
It rolls better. It rolls.
I like it. I
does.
never complain because I liked it. I like how you say it.
Right.
Can I say something real quick?
It's that Kyle Barker and Maxine. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Tia.
I was just gonna say, okay, so I am a little confused because wait, you said it's spelled, what is it, K-E-L-L or K-E-E-L?
K-E-E-L.
Oh, see, earlier when you was like it's spelled earlier when you was like it's K-E-L-L's, spelled like pills. I was like, wait, pills?
Peel, like peeling.
P-E-E-L, yeah. Okay, I got you.
But people say it that way. People call me Kill, and I'm like, it doesn't say Kill. And people just try to make their own. For my whole name is Angelic Star Kills. People call me Angelica. People make my name what they want to make it. Now I do correct people because my name is who I am, who I identify as. But in this case, I like how Sean says it. It's not like,
it's
I like it.
Hey, Ms. Dia would tell you back in the day, a lot of people had to correct me on the air. So,
Y'all just don't know. Lord, the best.
On demand. All right. See you later, Sheriff Fat Mohammed. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. On the Beat Break Morning Show. Once again, Stuck in Between Film.com is the website for more information. All right. We still have Maya Kai and Ms. Dia on the live line with us. By the way, we're getting ready to switch gears for a moment. And of course, we're going to switch it over to Ms. Dia. By the way, Ms. Dia on WRG 89.3 FM. The show Wednesday into Thursday morning, 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. on WRG 89.3 FM and WRFG.org. So let the people know what's been going on before we get into the serious matter at hand that we want to discuss. What's been going on with you, Ms. Dia?
Everything. It's interesting, since the pandemic, I've had to seriously just, like most people, come up with a whole plan B, or actually it's been kind of cool because I've been forced to do a lot of the things that I had been putting off, so this has given me a nice amount of time to complete projects and stuff like that. So I am still doing the radio show. Well, we are still doing the radio show. We're on as Brother Sean mentioned, every Wednesday going into Thursday, but I'm also about to launch some subscription boxes. That's why you see all these boxes around me and stuff. But so doing that, and then I had to take some time just before the pandemic hit. It's so interesting because we're about to talk about this, but just before the pandemic hit, when we were still down at the studio, I ended up taking off a month or two because I had been grieving. And y'all know how we are in our community. A lot of times it's it's just life, and we got all these great, amazing phrases and catchphrases and all that stuff to tell people to basically just, okay, it happens, keep moving. But I really wanted to take just some time and just breathe, you know what I'm saying? Just to breathe, just to cry, because I was at a place where it was at any moment I would just start crying. And I've never experience anything like this. I've always been, ever since I was a little girl, always just been busy, doing everything I love and all that stuff. So it was different for me to even acknowledge and let people know that hey y'all, I just need a little moment to stop for a second. So
yeah, and I can definitely relate, Ms. Dia, because there have been times where I literally just broke down and cried. From situations that happened last year all the way up to the most previous. And it can be healthy at times because you're just letting things out. You're just venting in your own way. You know what I mean? And so I definitely can relate to that. I think all of us, not just only me, but I think all of us that's on the live line right now can relate to what you've been going through. And I'm glad we're having this show right here on the Beat Break Morning Show. Of course, the ongoing conversation continues centering around mental health. And mental health awareness is not just only once a year or 1 month out of a year, but it's something that we have to continue on discussing and keeping the awareness going 365 days a year. But before we get into one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on, Ms. Dia, of course, today's topic is to those we lost. It's been a very, very bittersweet year, of course, 2021. I first want to acknowledge another radio colleague of ours, not just mine, but of ours, a iconic radio personality who we all know and love from Atlanta. He's been on almost every station in Atlanta. Who am I talking about, ladies and gentlemen? I'm talking Simon Baby. Please keep Simon Baby in your thoughts and in your prayers. For those that may not know, Simon Baby was recently diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Oh. And the good folks over at News and Talk 1380 WAOK, as well as B103, recently commemorated Simon Baby. He was on WAOK recently to talk about his battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And he is, of course, along with a lot of the radio personalities like myself, are encouraging people to help support his expenses while he is fighting this battle. So for those that you know Simon Baby or want to help Simon Baby, please give whatever you can. Cash out, $ Simon Baby. That's $SIMANBABY. And a little bit later on in the program, I'm going to play a throwback interview that I did with Simon Baby back in 2016. Very great interview with Simon Baby. He talked about his life, his career behind the mic, and his journey. What I would say about Simon, having to talk to him a few times and getting to know him, he is a very kind-hearted gentleman who is very approachable and drops a lot of wisdom. We have people in the industry that don't even take time out of their schedule. I know all of us are busy. We are radio people, but Simon was gracious enough to just even take time, whether it was answering a phone call or coming in for an interview or inviting you to his studio during his radio show to just sit down with them, talk to him off the air, and have you sit in front of him as he is doing his magic behind the board. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, please keep your thoughts and prayers for our very own colleague in radio, Simon Baby. All right, speaking of another radio colleague who we loved and lost recently, Malik Kalam from WRG 89.3 FM. Of course, he did not. Yep, there you go right there. There you go. Yep. Yeah, man. Of course, Malik Kalam is not gone in the spirit sense. He will always live on. But Ms. Dia, we wanted to bring you on, of course. When I got the news from you and you passed it on to other colleagues of ours in radio about it, it hit me because it was all so sudden. You know, it was one of those people like, well, first off, I have not, and just to be very transparent with everybody, I have not talked to or seen Malik Kalam in years. I can only tell you a fondest memory I had of Malik Kalam. No, it's one of those moments. It's like a few moments. So I know Malik Kalam. Actually, we got to switch up the beat. Let me switch up the beat real quick. Hey, I think Ms. D have some idea what I'm about to play. She can't hear it in the background because I'm in master control. But I'm playing a little bit of Tupac.
Hey, you see, I had to wear the shirt today. I had to.
Poetic justice.
Hey.
That's what I'm talking about. Tupac, if my homies call. That's the instrumental that I'm playing in the background.
Come on.
Yeah. Malik Kalam was known to play a lot of Tupac between 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., I believe, or until 6 a.m. or whenever he was. Yeah. He loved him some Tupac.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my great memories of listening to Malik Kalam on the radio at that time in the morning when I wasn't in the studio. And not only that, but every time he answers a call from a listener, he would say the classic line, cheese and crackers on the line.
No, or he would just say cheese. He would just say cheese after a while, and then the caller would have to respond with crackers. And if they ain't say crackers, he'd hang up on them like, cheese.
Every radio personality has their own signature and greeting. So that was Malik Kalam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to us, Ms. Dia. What was one of your fondest memories of Malik Kalam?
You know what? And I'm so sick about this. For years, I used to laugh. I'm talking laugh until I would be crying about something he said to this caller one day when I was on my way home. And I can't even remember what it was, but it was just, I always knew every Wednesday when I left the studio, his show came on right after mine. And I knew from the time I got into the car until the time I got home, I was going to either laugh like harder than I laughed all week, or I was going to be somewhere like about it. Like, hey, let's like run up in their stuff. And, you know, like Malik just gave you that energy. Just, you know, he was an amazing brother. And it's so interesting when I end up going to his service, and just to hear how much he had changed. Like he was from Opelika, Florida? And back then they used to call him Fat Milk. Now, you know, Brother Shine, when we knew him, you know, he had a little weight on himself, but he wasn't somebody that you would consider like a fat somebody, you know. Notice, yeah. And I say fat in all love. But they used to call him Fat Milk, or either they called him something with the verse, or like Milk. His name was Milton with the verse, because they said he had all these convertibles and all that stuff. And our brother Zaid Malik at the service got up and he said something that was so true. He was like, it's so crazy, because although he told us about those stories, I never would have known that that's who he was, because it really felt like he, you know, changed. He turned all that stuff in so that he could really just ride for the people. And a lot of times, like when I first heard his show, I ain't gonna front. One, it was funny. I remember y'all told me to go listen to his show, because I was thinking I was the biggest Tupac. Like in my mind, you know, Tupac and I, we brothers and sisters. Like you can't tell me nothing about Tupac. And, right. You know, I remember y'all telling me like, nah, you gotta hear Malik's show. And it was so funny, because when I listened to his show, I was like, I know nothing about Pac. Like, you know, I thought I knew something until I heard his show. Like, but he was just an amazing brother. And he truly was a rider for the people. You know, now we don't get that often. We get people that, you know, they claim that they for this and for that and stuff, but when it's time to address real issues, especially in media, especially on radio, on FM radio, we don't get a lot of people to stand up and stand in truth and stuff, and he did that. So way before Atlanta had, you know, the hip hop stations and stuff like that, WRFG was like the first, WRFG was the first station to play your hip hop, your Outkast and all that stuff here in Atlanta. And Malik was there. He was there. You know, he gave WRFG over 20 years. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to have met him, because just meeting him gave me more courage. It gave me, you know, like at first, and Brother Shine, you know what I'm talking about. Like at first I was a little concerned doing the show right before him, because I was like, man, he be calling them white folks out so much. Like, I don't want to walk outside and it'd be a whole bunch of white folks out here, and we got to be fighting these white folks at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to be a little, real concerned doing the show, but just being around him and stuff, you know how you feel the presence of God around when it's you around one of his children. So I deaded all of that type of fear or any of that kind of talking, and just knew that like we protected, so we can get on this station and we can talk truth. We can be honest as anybody have ever dared to be on radio, and we're going to be protected. So I'm just grateful again to have met him. I thank the creator all day long for the fact that, he gave us Malik, and Malik dedicated his life, to the people, to all of the folks that he rode with hard, the Mike Chambers, the Sunjata, the Fela, the Zaid Malik and stuff like that. For all of them, they created that whole movement of the RBG movement. When people say Zalud and stuff like that, that was Malik. Was that you didn't hear Zalud from people. So when people, when people say Zalud, you thinking of Malik, you hearing of Malik. So I'm just happy to have been here in Atlanta, to have met that man, because I truly appreciated him. I love him. And like you said earlier, spirit doesn't die. And that's one thing, even though I used to always say that and know that it was true. But now after losing, some very key people, and knowing and hearing them and feeling them and stuff like that, I know that we still got this soldier with us. So I can walk, and especially my sisters, any of the sisters hearing me now, know that you can walk a little more confidently here in this world, because we had brothers like him that cared about us, like on some for real. Like I would never intentionally try to put them in danger or something like that, but I knew that like, oh no, I got some brothers that love us, and that ain't gonna let anything happen to us in their presence and stuff. So I told him, and I will continue to tell him, like, Malik, you are always welcome here. Like if ever I'm in some trouble, feel free to let loose on somebody. But again, to his family, we send our sincerest condolences to all of the people all of the listeners and stuff, because that was something whenever I would have to cover his show. And I think that I had a nice rapport with our listeners and stuff, but it would be so funny. They're like, yo, Malik ain't coming in. Like, where Malik? I'm like, damn, but they serious about him, because he represented for the people. He represented every show. He started out, paying respect to Matulu, and then encouraging all of our brothers and sisters that's locked up. So, it just, the whole being unapologetically Black, he just took it to like the level that we all need to be. So so yeah, love him, much love to him. May he forever live on through us, through his children, to all the people that's in radio. I pray that we all get as much, even if you just get a quarter of the courage that he had when it came to using his platform to represent for the people. That's all we ask for.
Yeah. So what can we do moving forward, Ms. Dia? What can we do to help out, to make sure that his family is good, and to also keep his legacy alive? What can we do at this point?
Well, you know what? I spoke with his wife, with actually one of his daughters. She want to come join the show with us and stuff. And I was telling them that, we're going to set up, some kind of fund and stuff that's for him. We're going to make sure that Atlanta has a day that is dedicated to Malik Kalam. So right now, it's so fresh. His service, all that stuff has already been taken care of. So I don't have that information just yet, but as soon as I do, I'll make sure that I let you know. I do know that if you're on Facebook, you can, do a quick search for Malik Kalam, and that's spelled like Kill I Am, like KILLIAM. And some of his good friends and stuff, they're doing an event, and they're going to do a tribute to him over at the Atrium later on this month. So if you go onto his Facebook, you'll see the information and stuff about that. But again, I will keep you posted, Brother Rashawn, because, I thank you for just taking out some time to recognize this man. you know, because
Absolutely.
although a lot of times when it comes to WRFG and stuff, because it's on the independent dial, because we are such for the people radio station, a lot of times we don't get the credit and stuff that we deserve. And he is icon here, you know what I'm saying? He's a legend here in Atlanta. Now his show was quite different. You know, I was joking with the family at the service. I said, now look, I knew that 5 minutes of his show could have got our whole station cut. Like,
oh yeah,
5 minutes of his show could have got the station taken totally off the air. But like, ooh, it just was so worth it. You know, it was so worth hearing somebody get on them folks like that. You know, we've been dealing with so much, ain't no way in the world with all of that was happening, you know, the police brutality and stuff like that, to know that we have brothers and sisters on air that's scared to talk about this stuff. How are you on an urban state? How are you knowing that your main demographic, Black people, but you scared to talk about police brutality? You scared to talk about the fact that they killing our babies and our women going missing and stuff. You scared to talk about these things, but you know you targeting Black folks. So I thank him for that courage. I thank him for that.
Yeah. And we really appreciate you, Ms. Dia, for just coming on behalf of Kalam's family and speaking out, and just also talking about what all Malik has contributed to WRFG. And I'm glad I brought you back on, because we had you on a few months ago, and we left out some of the stuff we wanted to acknowledge about WRFG. And as our people heard us earlier, we always been the first. We've been the first to do this. And, you know, WRFG has always been the first to put out artists and their songs, which they ended up becoming hits. And the artists have now become household names. You know, it was Outkast, of course, and WRFG played their first song on the radio, you know, and to know that personalities such as yourself and of course the dearly departed Malik Kalam always wanted to make sure that the people of Atlanta and the people outside of Atlanta, they wanted to let them know that there's a voice here for people that are not able to speak for themselves on the airwaves. So in of course, in conclusion, I definitely want to, of course, send my thoughts and prayers to the family and friends of Malik Kalam. And like I said, Malik is still alive in the spirit. He's just not here in the physical, but his legacy will continue on. So I really appreciate you for taking time, Ms. Dia, to just share your thoughts and your memories about Malik Kalam. Very, very special.
Salute.
Salute.
Yeah.
All right. We are in the next hour of the Beat Break Morning Show, ladies and gentlemen. And what a great segue, of course, to talk about to those we lost in 2021 so far. And it hasn't even been the end of the year just yet, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to bring on Maya Kai. Of course, we're going to bring her on every once in a while to talk about all things considered mental health. And, you know, of course, we talked about mental health, Maya Kai, a few times before in the past. Yes. And people, people, I don't know. It's like, well, let me just talk about this year alone. It's like I had a conversation with someone recently, and I told that person, I asked that person, Maya, it just seems like nowadays you hear about somebody close to you or somebody that you know lost somebody every other day. I remember once upon a time that it would be every once in a while, or every blue moon, you hear somebody passing or somebody dying. But it's like all of a sudden now, fast forward, it's like every other day. And it just hits home to you like, wow, this is crazy. So as we're discussing to those we lost over the year and how it ties in with mental health, Maya Kai, let's say you, like, what does it look like? What does mental health look like to someone that just lost a loved one, whether it's through illness, whether it's through some form of violence or health-related issues? What does mental health look like when somebody loses somebody?
you know, for so many people, and you're right, the fact that we are experiencing loss on a scale that we've never experienced before. Obviously, the pandemic put the idea of death in the forefront of everyone's mind. There's a fear that you could contract a disease and you might die. So people live on that edge just because think about it, we're gonna be going into almost 2 years of existing in this kind of overall narrative of death is leading our daily lives. People are counting how many people are passing away. So then when you lose someone, it really becomes even more personal because now you have a story that's really tied to the narrative that you've been hearing for almost 2 years. So regardless whether it's gun violence, health issue, whatever the case may be, when you lose someone, there's that sense of loss in regards to, and Sean, you said something, and this is something that everybody can't do. You lost someone in the physical sense. It doesn't mean they're gone in that spiritual sense, but you can't make that connection if you don't have that connection within yourself. So it's different for everybody, really depending upon where they're at in their life journey. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a person that, honestly, let's say you live in a situation that's desperate, constant conflict, death is going to be hard for you to a degree. Some people have normalized it. They've lost so many people. It's just something they've grown accustomed to. So it's an individual experience that I think it's important to understand. It's not the same for everyone. We do not grieve the same. Some people grieve in the open, some people grieve in private. I do love the shift in narrative I'm hearing with people where it's a homecoming, a celebration of life. Other cultures look at death entirely different than we do within our culture. So when you start hearing people understanding, you do realize, and this sounds in a bit, it may seem a little harsh, from the moment you are born, you are moving towards death. The question is, what are you doing in the in-between?
There you go.
It's going to happen. And there is no shelf life. Somebody might live to be 105. Somebody may only live to be 10. And it always seems unfair because we assume that we are guaranteed to live forever, and we're not. And so this is why death is so hard, because we have put constraints on the idea of how long we're supposed to be here. Only your maker knows that. So Ms. Dia, when you talked about Malik, I love you are celebrating and remembering him in a way, and that's the way that it should be. But more importantly, what I think I'm hearing you say is you gave him his roses while he was here. Mm-hmm. So you're not just, it seems like people appreciated him and celebrated him and really embraced him for what he was doing. One of the things I want people to rethink is if you tend to celebrate people when they're here and give them their roses, when you lose them, it's not nearly as hard. I mean, you're going to miss them, but at least they know how you felt and that they were appreciated. And if I can't get anybody to rethink anything, and the amount of loss that people have had, even if you haven't lost somebody, look to your left and look to your right and think, if I was to lose that person tomorrow, how would I feel? And do they know how I feel?
Yeah, I want to have this conversation and talk about, let's start with the younger generation, right? Because as a kid, and maybe everybody that's on the live line right now can attest to this. As a kid, I thought that everybody would live forever. We grew up on superhero comics and watching television and watching those cartoon characters that never get old. We as kids thought that these adults were going to live forever. They were going to be forever young. And then as you get older and you start to realize that people don't live forever, like, how do you have that conversation with a person who is a young age, whether he or she is 8, 9, 10 years old, and they in that mindset thinking that people are going to live forever? How do you have that conversation with them? DJ Roland holding up the finger.
I gotta say this.
Okay.
Everything that was being said, I think about my father's mother, my grandmother. I knew my mother's mother, but she passed away when I was 8, so I didn't really know her. I knew my grandmother for 25 years, and the way I learned her is what my father has taught me is what I'm teaching my son to do. My son knows my grandmother and has never seen her in his life because of all the things I said about her, from her name, and what she did when my father was a kid. He knows her. And I instilled that in him from when he was a little child. He's now 18 and he knows her. He wish he could have met her in the physical sense, but he knows her spiritually. And and I preach that to him, and he understands that. And I get funny inside because like, wow, he really remembers and like, man, Dad, I wish I could have met her and stuff. And I said, yeah, she would have talked you to death. And she would have, treated me because I was like the baby child. And now me having a son, she would have treated you just as the same or more than me because he knows the spirit of her. So that's, I mean, y'all were just bringing that up. And that's what first person I come to mind was her because I know her like as if she's still guiding me, like something is like really bringing me down. What would she tell me to do? And that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Massive. And you know what's so interesting? So when I was about 6 or 7, my sister knew how scared I was of the basement. And she waited until I fell asleep and left me downstairs in the basement. And it's so crazy because the only reason I know that this was a dream that I had is because the doors, I ended up waking up and I must have, was so scared that I cried myself back to sleep, or I probably even fainted, honestly, because I was so scared of that basement. But when I ended up going back to sleep, the doors of the, at the top of the steps end up opening up and the Temptations came down and they start singing My Girl. So I'm like, what is happening? And then this woman comes down in this long, flowy, pretty white dress. And it was so interesting because my mother's mom, my maternal grandmother passed when my mama was 6. So growing up, we were introduced to death young, because that was a story that, I'm like, where's my mama? And that's all we knew is she died at 30 and she was singing a solo at church and had an aneurysm and passed away. So for me growing up as a child, I knew that death, like it just was too much for me because I was always thinking it was going to happen, then, but let me get back to the story. But what's so crazy? So this woman comes down and I knew the moment I saw her face, who she was. And like I tell you, I promise the only reason if the Temptations weren't there, you couldn't tell me that this didn't really happen in real life. And it was so interesting because she looked at me and she was like, girl, why are you scared? Like, I am always with y'all. Like, you ain't got to be scared. And I promise you, as I was scared to tell anybody about this until I got older, because I didn't want them, what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to come to my mama like, your mama, I just didn't want to, it was just a lot. It was too much for me at that time to even figure out how to express, what happened. And it wasn't until I had nieces and stuff like that, and I saw my mama become a grandmother, that I understood that, like, yeah, if my mama left this earth right now, she gonna come back and talk to her grandbabies or her great grandbabies if they needed her. You know what I'm saying? So we have to also make sure that, like you said, what you're doing with your son is amazing. We got to keep their names alive. We got to talk about them. Like I dedicated my whole life. Like I make these and stuff and I do them with people, with their personal, because I'm like, every day we need to see our people when they, what I'm saying? We need to see our people. We need to speak their names, say their names, tell their stories and all that stuff. So yeah, DJ Roland, I appreciate you doing that. And I think, that's something like we all really, really need to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. DJ Roland. I want to take it to the celebrity side for just one moment and tie it in with mental health to those we lost. We're talking about it right here on the Beat Break Morning Show. I mentioned earlier that we've lost a lot of great people, great talent this year from the folks in the hip hop community, folks of Biz Markie to Shock G to, of course, DMX. Ooh, that was heavy. Few other people, including outside of the hip hop community, but in the film and TV industry, we unfortunately recently lost a great talent, Michael K. Williams, of course. And I remember, Ms. Dia, when I posted the story of his passing on social media, you replied saying that he would be you wanted him to portray someone that me and you know from, of course, WRFG. I'm gonna let you tell it.
The first time I saw Mike, I was cracking up. I said, he looked like a young Wanique. He reminded me so much of Wanique, and it's so funny because I always used to be like, when I do a story about my life, I want him to be Wanique. So it kind of broke my heart. I mean, it broke my heart to see him make his transition. But I was like, dang it! Like I really, really was looking forward to working with him. And I was a huge fan of his work. Lovecraft Country, I was sick about it. I said, oh no, I know they canceled it, but I was hoping it was gonna come back and he would be back. But he did his job. He came, the man. And you know what's so interesting about him? I was like, he took on roles that like, people like, usually it was almost like he made people respect folks' sexuality on some like, you better not say anything about I dare you to say something about Omar.
Right.
Omar from The Wire, yeah.
Right.
And so many movies after that. Of course, Empire. There was
he was excellent in that.
Yes, he was great in that.
Yeah. Another movie that I think he really did a great job in, and it's a movie that a lot of people don't talk about, is The Gambler. That's the movie with Mark Wahlberg in there. That movie, and I mean, just so many movies that come to my mind, whether they were small roles or big roles, of course, and then he landed a great opportunity on another HBO series, like you just said, Lovecraft Country. That was it. And he was just one of those actors that didn't want to be looked at as a celebrity, if that makes sense. Like he just wanted to be looked at as a human being with great talent. And Star, what about you? Like, what do you remember about Michael K. Williams? Have you ever met him in person, or do you only just know him from the movies and television shows that you've seen?
I only know him from the movie and television show. I had a moment where my friend who is in production, he owns like the lighting company that comes and set up the lighting for the movies and shows and stuff. So he knows him, and he had a lot of different pictures from him from being on set with him a few times. And I always would joke about him, like, "Ooh, he looks so ashy." So he sent me a picture because I was, just kind of joking with him and all of that. So he sent me a picture the day that he passed. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't known that he passed. And I was like, there go my ashy friend. And then he sent me like a bubble eye, and I was like, what? And then my cousin called me and was like, you know the man from The Wire? And I was like, that's why he sent me that bubble eye, because he's like, how you making jokes and this man done passed? But it was just, just joking, because he always talked about how cool he was, how down to earth he was. And they would joke, and, because they were both from the same place. They grew up in the same neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. So they would always joke, and they had some ongoing joke about being ashy or something. And that was a Southern thing, and they knew nothing, So I kept the joke going. But, that was one of those moments where I was just like, dang, he's passed, and I didn't know him directly, but I felt like I knew him through my friend from the stories he told and all of the jokes. But it was so awkward for me, y'all. I felt so bad.
That's all right.
I guarantee you, he was probably laughing. He was probably laughing we're the ones that put the spin on it. We're the ones that create this idea that though they're not physically here, there's not a liveliness about them. It's because we have ideas of funerals and burials, and we have this negative idea of endings. But why do we see people as if this is like the curtain call? It's the curtain call here, but it doesn't mean there's something more going on. We have to think outside the box. This is why when people say things like, I don't want a funeral, I want a party. Don't do this, don't do that. I want you to celebrate me the way I celebrate me, like I'm here, even though I'm gone. Because everything we do leading up to it is so sad and negative. It's not a celebration. And it should be just the opposite of that.
Yeah, I have to say something on this. The thing about it is when we try as a culture to celebrate, the thing that gets on my nerves, and you know y'all seen this on the news, is the negativity that goes on at these funerals of people fighting, and some people actually dying at the funeral when he's supposed to be celebrating the person's life. That is the most upsetting thing. You fighting over materialistic things and or money.
Yes.
And that is so ridiculous and whatnot that us as a culture doing it. That's the ones that I see. I don't see a lot of the other cultures doing that. It's just us, because they weren't about me and me only. And that's sad. Why not celebrate this person's life? They gave the opportunity for us to know him or her, enjoy their time on this earth, and you don't want to fight. It's just sad and ridiculous.
I agree that unfortunately is a shortcoming in those situations. It tends to bring the worst out in people for whatever reason. But yes, that part is sad. It's very sad.
Yeah, I think because they're emotionally unbalanced at the time, or people still carry the grudge to the grave. Like somebody could be dead and they just carry it to the grave. And my mom literally said, don't carry nothing. She said the same thing, like have a celebration in my name. You know, y'all have fun. Y'all talk about great memories with me and y'all commemorate together, love, hug one another, and, you know, share happy tears. You know, no arguing, no fighting. No, she literally made that very clear. Like, party in my name, do not be sad or sober in my name. So I think sometimes that if it is said a little bit more in the community, we can heal and learn to celebrate the continuing of life beyond this life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're in the month of October, a month after 9/11. And there are people that are out there that are still grieving the loss of lives during that fateful, tragic day in American history. And there was a movie that was out about a couple of years after 9/11 called Rain on Me. And it highlighted this guy who was just like in a state of awkwardness, I guess you could say. He wasn't himself after he lost his wife and daughter in that 9/11 tragedy. Some people look at it as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, but is it called something else? And if it's called something else, is it the same as post-traumatic stress disorder, or is it totally different when a situation like 9/11 occurred?
Well, with PTSD, actually 9/11 can obviously qualify that way in different capacities, because you had people that, for instance, were just watching TV, like seeing a plane hit the World Trade Center, and then they saw them fall. So we have different definitions for PTSD. If you are the witness of an act, it can cause traumatic experiences. Obviously, if you are part of it, that can be a traumatic experience. Another example that unfortunately some people might get better than others will be if you saw someone killed in front of your eyes, though you weren't the victim, you saw the crime, so to speak. You saw someone shot. That can create PTSD for someone. So it's got different qualifications of what qualifies as a traumatic experience. And then there's other things like, are you living memories? Are there nightmares? You know, are you avoiding situations because it is a trigger for you? There's a lot that goes into PTSD. But one thing I think is interesting about not just PTSD is trauma. And this is one of the things that I frequently speak of, especially within communities where there often happens to be a lot of violence, that violence has become normalized in many communities. What people don't realize is there's a level of trauma to that. Mm-hmm. And it manifests itself in other ways. Mm-hmm. So when you normalize violence, that, oh, it's just an everyday thing, or I'm not, you know, it's, oh, somebody got shot. Oh, no big deal. There's a level of trauma that manifests itself in other ways that people don't realize. And I think people have to start to realize that just because something happens and it's frequent in your community or not, doesn't mean that you have to be okay with it or that you are okay with it.
Yeah.
You just said a word right there. You just said a word right there.
Because it happens so much in our communities and also in our households, where we're used to violence in the community, and we bring it into our households. We're used to yelling, screaming, just unhealthy relationships and family structures due to the way that we grew up and then the environment that we grew up in. And so we kind of think it's okay, and we do normalize yelling, screaming, violence, sometimes even physical abuse or, you know, verbal abuse. Like we normalize these things, not knowing that these things have a deep I mean, they do something very, very deep to our spirit that literally takes years to even just kind of tear off one layer. You know, the levels of it is serious. And the fact that you brought it up, I think that's something more that we need to focus in on and let people know it's not okay to yell and scream. It's not okay to hurt or be violent or, you know, do things to people. That is not normal and is not healthy at all.
We often speak to what's called generational trauma, which is each generation passes down what is poor behavior, treatment, a lack of affection, nurturing, violence on many levels. And it becomes compounded. And the question becomes, who is the person that's going to break the cycle? Who's going to say, no, it's not okay to hit a child is a way to reprimand them. We all know once upon a time that was a way we thought that was the right way to do it. But if you understand the nature behind discipline within the Black community, it's very strongly rooted in slavery. In fact, there's something called post-traumatic slave syndrome by Dr. Joyce DeGray that talks about how the trauma that was passed, that began in slavery, has been passed through generations for Black people, whereas how we discipline our children. If you were, and it generates from, and this is a really good book, you should read it by her. It talks about where the reason that often early on violence was used for correction of behavior is because that's how slaves were treated. We correct your behavior by beating you. And then when people became free, they kept emulating this behavior. So there's a lot of things that are tied within slavery that we ourselves have not truly understood because we don't know our history really well. So if you really learn your history, you'll see the error in some of the things that we do. Everything from generational poverty, you'll get where it comes from. Generational trauma, you will see where it comes from. So there's many things that I always say to people, and they stop and pause on this when I do therapy with them, that people only love you the way they know how. But the caveat to that means it doesn't mean that it's right. It's what they know. So the question is, what do you do with that when you know someone does not love you the way that you needed to be loved? And a lot of times people will accept things from people just because the thing I'm always debunking for people is blood is not thicker than water. That's an excuse to allow yourself to be abused. Because you assume because someone's related to you, because they should do better, but they don't. So why would you subject yourself to poor behavior only under the guise that you're related to someone? Does that make any sense?
Right. Makes perfect sense.
You wouldn't accept, I would hope you wouldn't accept it for someone that you weren't, but we so easily allow the people who are supposed to be the closest to us to do the most damage.
Yeah, I always say that we always say that it starts at home, right? It starts with the parents, and then it goes into the community and who we are around, our environment, and what have you. And I always say this: you don't have to go into the army or into the military to have PTSD. It could happen in your home. It could happen in your environment. It could also, like people that you bring into your circle, into your lives, they can also give you a form of PTSD by whatever violent actions they bring into that home. So I think we need to continue on having more discussions surrounding that. I want to say this before we close out the program. And I think it's very important, once again, always important to have this kind of conversation centering around mental health and people that we've lost along the way. Of course, last year, the pandemic happened. And even before the pandemic happened, I lost two of people that were close to me, my grandmother and our very own dear friend, Signature Phrase, who we all know and love, and was a co-host on our morning show, who passed away from stage 4 cancer last year. And I experienced a state of sadness, depression, and what have you. And then, of course, later on, I was in a situation with someone where the relationship ended, and it even pulled me into a very, very, it took me into a very, very dark place where I never thought, Maya, that I would have mental health issues. I thought that a person, and I was just so clueless, but I thought that mental health was just somebody dealing with drugs and substance abuse, alcoholism, or childhood trauma. But it can also come from other things that you experience in life, like a major, major breakup, or or
loss.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the word grief itself is misunderstood, because grieving is just not the loss of life. It's a loss of something that creates such a void for you, you can't deal with it. So often when people lose jobs and it's their identity and they don't know what to do, they go from being very wealthy, they lose everything. Grief is something that is a broader topic than we understand. And I always tell people, don't think about mental health. It's about mental wellness. So just like you take care of every other part of your body, your mind is the most important thing because it runs everything else. But it's the thing you give the least amount of attention to, which makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever to me. You know what? Look at it this way. Setbacks are temporary only if your mindset isn't permanent. So if your mindset is permanent and fixed, then setbacks will always be an issue for you.
I just have to say this with the job situation. When I met Sean Garvey, I was in a transitional time, and I didn't even know it. When I first met him, I was still in education, but little did I know that I was actually leaving education before I actually knew it.
Okay.
And I went through a undisclosed depression, of course, that no one knew, and I didn't know until I look at it years ago. That it was undiagnosed. I was trying to figure myself out, DJ Roland. That's how he met me, as DJ Roland and whatnot, but I was still the educator at the time. But I was in a transition and I didn't know, and I had to figure it out one of the main things I had to figure it out, I'm a father, and I had to get my stuff together for my son. That was one of the main reasons I had to get my act together and whatnot. And I wish I could have, it wasn't really pushed out that much of getting mental health assistance. So I had to figure stuff out, and I had to figure out in the best possible way. And I'm just glad I knew a lot of positive folks, and that's how I transitioned into the medical field, and that's how I stayed with it. And by me being in there is really helping out not only myself and some other folks, especially my mother. And my mother has been diagnosed with dementia, and whatnot. So I've learned a lot about how the insurance works and how to take care of her. And that's how I became a caretaker. So a lot of stuff happened undisclosed in the mental state. And I'm just proud of myself, because a lot of folks couldn't do what I've done and whatnot. I'm not putting a crown on my head about it or bragging, but I just do what I do. I say I always try. That's the only thing I can do. And I do that daily and whatnot. And Sean knows that. So he knows how my life is outside of Beat Break Radio and going from there. So I'm always going to be with them,
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And you know what? I also want to say this too. It is great to have an accountability partner. I have one. Shout out to S. Lonnie Hayes, who's actually getting ready to come up after this segment. She's going to do her mindful moments. But S. Lonnie Hayes made sure that I was in mental check. She would call me up every once in a while and say, "Hey, Sean, just want to see how you're doing." She put me on to a therapist we had on the show recently. And it's just great to actually speak to somebody that can relate to you and is there to listen and offer tips and advice to help you along the way. You know, I think in our community at times, and our community is getting a little bit more open to it, but back then getting therapy was a taboo. Like people look at you crazy or sideways or even judge you and say, oh, you going to a therapist? Why? Like, what's wrong with you? But I think it's healthy in many ways than one. You know, so shout out to S-Line. And like I said, accountability partner, just somebody to call every once in a while, check up on you, making sure you ain't going out there doing anything crazy or what have you, you know. But I think it's good to have one in these days and times.
Yeah.
Absolutely. May I say something real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Ladies, you all mentioned this earlier, and I think it's something that we really need to have some more dialogue about when it comes to us normalizing violence and stuff and the trauma that it has caused. I find myself in a lot of conversations with people, and you know, I've learned how to control my emotions because, you know, as mentioned earlier, I'm a Detroit girl, born and raised, and as beautiful as Detroit is, you know, a lot of what you hear about it is true. I started losing friends to violence at, you know, middle school age. And it wasn't, and it was interesting because as a child losing my peers, it hurt. But when I became an adult and burying our first little nephew or our first little cousin and seeing our babies in these caskets and stuff, it took a whole other, just a whole other, like, took my emotions into a whole other space. So now, you know, when I hear people saying stuff like, oh, you know, I know the term, we need to come up with another term or whatnot, but the idea that there's nothing wrong, nothing going on wrong or anything happening different in our communities than what's happening in everybody else's communities. When, you know, you mentioned something about violence amongst Black people, is, oh, everybody deal with it. White people kill white people and this. No. And it's like, no, you know, they're not killing each other the way we're killing each other. You know, so I think, like, as a community, like, we really need to get on that, because I'm just the older cousin / aunt that lost a child. So I'm concerned about some of these parents out here, like, really snapping one day because you sitting up wanting to have this cute little talking point as if, oh, ain't nothing really happening in our community because you don't want to look bad in front of other people. Like, I don't care how other people look at us. Like, when it's, we need to start discussing this because we've become way too comfortable in normalizing, violence amongst each other.
Right. Can I say something, Ms. Dia? We got to go back to the WRG days. I'm being Brother Rashawn now. So,
okay, Brother Rashawn.
if we got to call somebody out on our community or from our community, because we're known to call people out on the radio back in the day, right?
Okay.
If I got to call one person out from our community, especially from the hip hop community, I got to call out 50 Cent.
I can't stand him.
I'm sorry.
I can't stand him.
I know we have some listeners that are fans
you don't like Curtis?
Of his work, of Power, Curtis Jackson.
You don't like Curtis? I don't mess with him. Him and Rick Ross, if you say their names, my skin gets to crawl.
Okay, we'll say Curtis Jackson, Miss Dio, just for you. We'll say Curtis Jackson. Listen. I respect Curtis Jackson as a businessman, an entrepreneur. Okay, great. You're getting the bag from all of these different things that you are doing in television, film, music, and other ways of avenue. But I'm tired of seeing the same thing coming from your production studios.
Yes.
Every single time. I'm tired of seeing a Power 3. I'm tired of seeing a Power 4. I'm tired of seeing a Power 5. And then now BMF. Like, really? And you said a key word right there just a few moments ago, normalizing. And I feel like the content that a person like Curtis Jackson is putting out there it's more so of entertaining and not raising awareness about the stuff that is still going on to this very day. You know what I mean? Like, we already have a Snowfall. We already have this show and that show. It's just like adding fuel to the fire whenever more content is coming out that's dealing with drug paraphernalia or the trap life and getting money and all this other stuff. I'm just sick and tired of seeing that same kind of content on television.
And we got to be careful. We got to be careful because look at how, you know, especially with him, we got to be careful what messages we let these people put out here. You know, with him, all of these stories, you know, okay, dude killed his son and he killed his daddy or his mom, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, for us as adults, we can look at it and be like, okay, whatever. But we have these young people watching this stuff, thinking that, like, you know, okay, yeah, killing is nothing. It's nothing.
But
so, you know,
Right. I want you to say something, because this also ties into mental health, especially when we watch television.
The damage
and we see these images.
We've already imprinted an entire generation with violence, with assuming that it's okay. I mean, obviously, being in Chicago, I mean, the fact that people just, how we resolve things is let's just shoot each other. I mean, there's not even honor among thieves anymore. The code for what you didn't do and who you didn't hurt, all that has been lost. So I hate to tell you this. The problem has already been created that we have allowed our young people to believe. We've glamorized this. I say this all the time. I say it isn't just about violence. It's just even about over-presentation of culture. I had a small snippet of the MTV VMAs, and I was so disgusted by the representation of Black women. And I kept saying, I'm getting old. I'm old eventually. I'm there. I said, because I couldn't stand the imagery of the over-sexualization of Black women. And people think, oh, Cardi B is super cool. And I'll pick on her because I'm half Latino, so I'll pick on her too. But, you know, oh, the Megan Thee Stallion. I'm like, why do you feel like you have to be grotesque and nasty at the mouth like a man to get your point across? I just have an issue with it. And everything about that award show, everything that Black people represented was hideous to me. And that's what people believe when they see us around the world, that is what we are. So what do young girls think? Oh, I have to be overly provocative and show everything I have. And you see video, I mean, people think it's funny with twerk videos. I said, you know, that's telling you right there what people think. I mean,
we need another self-destruction group.
But that's the thing about but look at the whole narrative of every song. And it's just, when you get right down to it, somebody said this and people get upset about it. I said, I'm not gonna be mad about it because I agree with this statement. If we took half the effort that we have about Black Lives Matter and put it to Black Lives Matter in our community, imagine what we could accomplish. But instead we turn the energy outwards. Okay, I'm not saying police killings are ever okay, and I'm not saying turn a blind eye to it, but why is it that extinguishing of that life gets more attention than the week-to-week killings that I see in Chicago?
Folks don't want to be accountable. They don't want to be accountable.
It makes no sense to me. I was like, if Black Lives Matter, it matters no matter who the perpetrator is then. We should be.
They don't want to hear that.
We're addressing everybody. It's not just the police side of it. We're in everybody's face. Like, hey, bro, why are you trying to extinguish our future within our community? Those narratives never happen. And then people get mad when you say it and say you're trying to compare apples to oranges. I said, if you ask me where I want the energy to be, I want the violence to stop in the Black community, because we are extinguishing our future little by little. And if you wonder why nobody's stopping it, is why would they stop it? Because we've already become a cancer and we're eating ourselves from the inside.
And sex and violence always makes money.
Sex and violence always makes money. It's provocative.
That's why.
And we don't have enough sense. And the thing is, new generations of people who like make the content like, well, I don't care as long as I make my money. Our sense of community has long.
All this me stuff. All that me stuff.
We have no community.
Yeah, it's the me generation. Yeah. Right now.
Yeah, but it's not even, and we can't even, it's so older than just this young group. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been dealing with this.
I mean the generation. I kind of mean the era.
Yeah. Because we deal with this with 50-year-olds. You know, it's something that didn't start here because
you're right. Yeah. I mean, but it's gotten progressively worse. And the question is, when exactly did we turn the corner? And the bigger question is, can we turn back around?
Yeah, but see, and this is the thing now, what we do have to also realize is, like when I think of myself at 2021 and stuff, I was all of this stuff we're talking about, like I was fired up about it. Like, hey, I saw where we were going. You know what I'm saying? Like, we killing ourselves and stuff. And right now, there are some young people out there that's looking for us.
Yes.
Yeah,
they hungry for, you know what I'm saying? For like, okay, because a lot of them, you know, they know that they're right about it, but they don't have the approval, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't have us behind them selling them, like, or alongside them telling them, yeah, you are right, so let's keep moving. Nice. And even with the whole, like with the sex and violence and stuff, all that stuff make money. Anything make money that's promoted to people. Mm-hmm. That's what we got to realize. I don't give a dang what it is. Anything make money that's promoted to people. You program people with something different and they gonna still spend their money. It just, you know what I'm saying? So we have to stretch out a little bit further, stretch our arms out just a little bit further, in the way we stretch our minds out a little bit further. I say also with how we approach this, you know, because these young people, it's a lot of them out here that's ready.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I was saying the same thing. Me and Sean had that conversation too, because we were talking about 50 Cent. And my whole thing is just the fact that he is affecting the new generation. You know, he is showing them that it's okay to deal in drugs, it's okay to murder, it's okay to kill. But not only that, he is also continuing to paint the picture that we are these types of people to other races. That is the most biggest thing too. Not only are you promoting it in the community and programming children, the generation that really doesn't have the help of their ancestors or the older generation helping them, but they only have social media and TV, and you're promoting that, hey, it's okay to continue this cycle of violence, murder, crime, sex, irresponsibility, showing them that manhood is this and womanhood is this, and is not the correct way and the correct, it's just, it has nothing to do with who we truly are as a people. And like I said, it keeps painting the same narrative that we are ghetto, we are violent, we are loud, and that's just not our whole culture. So that's why I just don't agree with it at all. And I feel like the first step for us is just like you said, that these kids are looking for us. I know for a fact, because they're kids that come to me just as a mentor, and I am very transparent and true and organic with these kids about life and where they need to go, and also not allowing social media and television and people to program you to think a certain way. Your mind has to be open to more positive outlets and more of a different way to resolve issues, because they're way more creative than us and way more in tune with certain things, and that energy can be used for great things.
Very true.
Yeah, I think a lot of us that's on this live line are what we consider as content creators. And that's why I want to step outside of radio, because people know me for years as the radio guy, or the radio guy that transformed into the podcast guy. Like, yeah, I can do radio and podcasts, but I can also come up with content for television that is outside of the norm, outside of the box, that all ages or people from different ethnicities can relate to. And that's why, for people that see me done it recently, speaking of social media, I went ahead and promoted what people can expect from a series that I'm working on called Unemployment Check. And I think that the show, I don't think I know, because I'm the creator of it, but the show itself, I know is going to touch on some serious subject matters where it's not glorifying a particular lifestyle. And I want to piggyback on Sharafat Mohammed for coming on the podcast this morning, because she wanted to let people know that she comes from radio, but she is also stepping her toe outside of the radio industry to do something on what I feel like is a larger scale, which is film, and show people a positive representation of African American or Black people by putting this movie together. The movie, once again, is called Stuck in Between. So I think there's a hunger for more content creators that were known to do radio or podcasts or do other forms of media to come out and show the masses and show audiences that, hey, we can make content that doesn't have to do with the drug trap lifestyle. We can put out content that doesn't have to do with infidelity and adultery, or, you know, some of the things that we've been seeing lately on television and even some of these streaming platforms. And, you know, hey, there's even independent TV shows and films that have people of color in them that are doing the same thing that the Curtis Jacksons of the world are doing. So, you know, I'm happy to have people like Sharafat Muhammad to come on the show, and just other creatives and content creators in the near future to come on our show and be on this platform to talk about, hey, this is the kind of content that I want to show our people and put and showcase people that are in a positive light. And that can help with someone's mental health, especially in the world that we're living in right now, where mental health is much more bigger than ever before. Yeah. So I agree with everybody. But hey, listen up, folks. Our time is up, ladies and gentlemen. Great conversation as always. Want to give shout outs and thank you to, speaking of which, Sharafat Muhammad. Once again, the movie is called Stuck in Between. You can go check out some more information about it by going to stuckinbetweenfilm.com. The movie is going to be coming out real soon in 2022. I want to also thank Maya Akai for coming on the Beat Break Morning Show to discuss mental health and tying it in with to those we lost this year. And if you heard that in the background, that's almost our cue to go. But shout out to Miss Dia, by the way. Thank you, Miss Dia. Pretty dope. Pretty dope. We got the website, prettydopebox.com.
Yes, it's going to be launching. I launched this month. My aunt, one of my favorite aunts' birthday is October 8th. So October 8th, I am launching my new subscription box. And thank you so much for allowing me to come on and pay respect to our brother Malik Kalam.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as soon as we get that information from you, we'll make sure that the listeners and the followers get that information as well. All right. And Maya Kai.
Yes.
Of course. My Ambition, Your Ambition. You can check it out weekdays from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Reach One Network, of course, on the Podcast FM app, but it's also on multiple platforms. So give our audience more information about My Ambition, Your Ambition.
Of course, you can always find it at mayakai.com. Make sure you follow me on Facebook at Maya Kai Presents, Twitter, Instagram, Maya_Kai. Somebody's saying, how in God's name do you spell that? MAYA_AKAI. So we'll be challenged with that. You can find me on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. If you name it, it's pretty much there. Spotify, just Google Maya, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and you can find my mental wellness podcast.
All righty. And Ms. Dia, you already know, Wednesday into Thursday mornings, 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. on WRFG 89.3 FM with Hollywood Kid. More information, please, Ms. Dia.
Yeah, so as mentioned, y'all can listen to us there. I am on Instagram at Pretty Dope Dia. That's Pretty Dope, and then Dia spelled like Detroit Institute of Art. Sorry, I got to throw that Detroit in there.
But that is freestyle.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But yeah, so Pretty Dope Dia. That's DIA, and yes, I post pretty much everything that I do have going on. And again, thank y'all so very much for having me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Star Kels, as always, where can people follow you?
You guys can follow me on all social media platforms at She Talk Atlanta. Is on Instagram and Facebook, and also join my She Talk Atlanta group. That's it.
Tea Talk Atlanta. All right. And I know we didn't have time to get into your trending report, but I promise we'll get that in next week on the morning show. And DJ Roland, of course, where can people follow you at?
Always follow me at DJ Roland on Twitter and Instagram, and DJ Roland Townsend, and always I get the best out there. Okay?
That's what it is. Also, make sure you follow me, social media, Sean Garvey on Facebook, Sean Garvey ATL on Twitter and on Instagram. Tune in to a new episode of the Beat Break Morning Show next week. We will have a special guest from Couple, and we're going to talk about, this is one of DJ Roland's favorite topics as it pertains to dating and relationships. We're going to ask the question, are you too busy to date, and are you too busy to communicate?
Hey.
I'm just saying, you run into people say, hey, we can date and everything, and then next thing you know, they be like, you know what, I got a lot of stuff going on in my life right now, I'm busy and everything. It's like,
here we
bruh,
go.
sis, what's going on?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk about it next week, but until then, you can check out our previous episodes of the Big Break Morning Show this week. And we will holler at y'all later. Oh, we're not ending the program. We got some more segments coming up. The DJ Roland mix, the caffeine energy drink mix, as Lonnie Hayes coming up. And Mr. Moody, you may be a racist and you don't even know it. Also, our morning affirmation with Just a Touch of J. Stay tuned, coming up right here on the Beat Break Morning Show. All right.